Well, there you go. We've reached the end of the pad and the end of your IA. But what's all this about criteria G? Well, don't worry. It's really easy. Criteria G is in fact the easiest 4 marks, because all you have to do is just make sure you've got your stuff organised. There is one thing you have to make for criteria G, and that is the screencast, okay? Now what you're doing in the screencast, let me just talk about that for a second. What you're doing in the screencast is you're showing the examiner your advanced techniques, okay? So you are showing them through your product and you're talking about what you've done and how you've used those advanced techniques. And remember, what you're trying to explain to them is what was the point of doing it in that way, okay? So it's a good idea to have some kind of script. Jot down a bullet point list of the things that you want to talk about. You can edit those screencasts if you need to squash it together, but it is a maximum of 5 minutes, okay? So key things, advanced techniques, that's what you're explaining, you're showing off your product, and keep it to less than 5 minutes. The only other thing that's important about your screencast is don't mention your name, okay? You need to try and keep it as anonymous as possible in terms of who you are and all of that stuff. Okay, so that's the screencast. I recommend Screencast-O-Matic. It works best. You don't have to have yourself in the video if you don't want to, but you do need to talk your way through. Okay, so that's an MP4 you're going to include. The other things that are being looked at in criteria G are these elements, okay? Your product. Do you have it? Is it included in your folder? And does it work? In other words, can an external examiner access it and figure out what you were trying to make and see your work? Okay? So this is not a quality of it, it's just does it work, can somebody assess it? The next thing is the cover page. So the cover page is an HTML page. You need to edit it with all the links to all of your things. So when I mean things, I mean your documentation. So all your documentation should be named correctly and in the correct folders. Yeah? So that's the other element, the 4th element that's been looked at in criteria G. If you've been following all my advice about saving it in the right place and keeping it there, it will all be done, so it's a no-brainer, right? And then the cover page will take you a very short amount of time to do, because all you're doing is you're just linking that in. And that's criteria G, just making sure you've got your stuff organised, doing your screencast, and then you are done.